This city desperately needs some teaching. I don't remember any time in at least the last 27 years since Ronald Reagan was elected that we have seen the level of timidity, cowardice, intellectual dishonesty, and determination to avoid the truth that currently dominates Capitol Hill. In both parties. We have young men and women risking their lives in Iraq and in Afghanistan, doing their job for America. And on Capitol Hill, we have self-appointed generals, eager in both parties, eager to tell us the reality of Iraq and Afghanistan as their pollster has informed them. And their pollsters informing them based on a profound lie told them by the elite media. So I want to share some polling with you. And I want you to feel free to go to Capitol Hill and share these numbers with your representative and your senators and let them know I'd be glad to chat with them if they have any doubt about the accuracy of these numbers, either in private or at any public venue in their state or district they'd like to pick. A couple numbers that are amazing. We're not a red versus blue country. This is a total example of what emerged because of the elite media and, candidly, Republican incompetence. We're not a red versus blue country. 91% of the American people believe in the right to say one nation under God as part of the pledge. I wrote Rediscovering God in America to lay out the historic facts, not ideology, not theology, the historic facts that if you go through a walking tour of this city, starting with the founding political document of America, the Declaration of Independence, which says we are endowed by our Creator. Now that's a fact. And you may decide you don't like that fact and you wished you weren't here in America and you wish you could be in some country that wasn't endowing you with all this. But it is a fact if you're in America, you are endowed by your Creator. And I got re-energized because the Ninth Circuit Court is so nuts that they ruled it was unconstitutional. And I think we should, frankly, eliminate the Ninth Circuit, re-recruit it, and start over. Now, let me give you a couple more numbers because you just need to understand what utter, total, dishonest baloney red versus blue is. Manufactured by the New York Times, the elite media, and everybody on the left desperate to keep this country on defense and to not allow us to exercise the full force of 300 million free people. 85% of the American people believe English ought to be the official language of government. Now, at 85 to 10, you're not red versus blue. You're red, white, and blue versus pastel. Now let's talk about the purpose of this evening's gathering. And I'm going to contextualize this a little broader than simply talking about Israel and simply talking about America, because we are at one of the great historic moments of history. We're at a period that is exactly like the cycle between 1936 and 1939, when all of the elites in Great Britain were desperate to avoid war, and I commend to all of you a new book called Troublesome Young Men, which is a study of the Tories who tried to get rid of Chamberlain, and it's a horrifying book. And it made me realize how parallel our period is, in ways that are frankly more sobering than I would have guessed. But let's talk for a minute about these elites. Here are the numbers. At American Solutions, a project I'm involved in, we did a poll 3 weeks ago, the American people. We asked a straight question. Do you think we have an obligation to defend America and her allies? Now, after every headline you've seen, the answer was 85 to 10. 10% of America does not believe we should defend America and our allies. 4% of those are in San Francisco, the rest are on college campuses. Then we raised the ante. We used a word that we're not supposed to use anymore. We said, do you think America should defeat her enemies? The answer was 75 to 16. Now, I'll just tell you, I've been in this business a long time. I studied under Ronald Reagan. I studied Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I looked at all the folks who had done politics really well. And as a general rule, if you can be on the 75 side of a 75 to 16 split, you have a fair chance of winning when it's over. But what happens to us? I'll tell you what happens. People in this city lose their courage, they lose their nerve, they get worn out, they become timid, and they are intimidated by a news media desperate to avoid telling the truth about what's going on. Now, I want all of you to encourage your senators and your House member to go down to Mount Vernon, to the new education center, which is extraordinary, and watch the film in which George Washington, on Christmas Eve, 1776, thinks through the survival of America. His army has been defeated from Brooklyn, across Manhattan, across New York, across New Jersey. It is hiding in Pennsylvania. The British have gone into winter camp. They're so convinced they've won. And the army's shrunk to 10,000 men, 6,000 of whom are unfit. Only 4,000 are left for duty. And Washington meets with his generals. And he says, if we don't find a way to win a victory, this army will dissolve in the next 3 weeks. The revolution will be over. We will be hunted down and hung by the king. America will never exist. And all of his generals are timid. They could be serving in the U.S. Senate. They say to him, we can't cross at night. We can't cross with the ice. We can't take on the Hessian professional soldiers from Germany. We can't. Washington listens to their advice, and he says, look, we take the gamble or we disappear. So there is no gamble. Here was and I want you to remember this the rest of your life. On that night, when he gathered that 4,000 remaining troops, and he said, we are about to launch on a desperate night mission. We are going to cross an ice-filled river. We are going to march up and surprise the Hessians, and we are going to defeat them on behalf of an America that needs to be free. He gave them a password. This is absolutely true. It's eerie, it sounds incredible, but it's absolutely true. He gave them a password. Victory or death. He didn't say negotiate or chat. He didn't say therapy or confrontation. He didn't say, could we sit around and create a peace process? He said victory or death, because he got it. When you're in a real war with a real enemy and your choices are twofold, you get to win, they get to win. There's nothing in between. We revisited this in 1980. I'm not going to pick up on, as a Georgian, I'm not going to pick up on the various comments that were made by Reverend Hagee about Jimmy Carter. Not that they're inaccurate, but I'm just not going to build on that. But it is true that in 1980, the United States, having experienced the worst presidency of modern times,